4, 3, 2, 1. We're live. Nicolas Dorier, BTCPay Server. Bonsoir.
Hey, bonsoir.
How are you?
I'm in Japan actually right now.
Yeah, that's why I say or bonne nuit, I guess. How are you, man?
Yeah, great. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, great to see you, and thanks for taking the time. So we had a quick chat on Twitter, a while back before Advancing Bitcoin London conference. Then I know that Mike Foxon for London Bitcoin Dev already sent you an invite. So I spoke with Mike. We decided to do a joint meetup. You came to speak at UCL. It was a great talk. Lots of people, lots of good questions. I added a link to the presentation at the bottom of the YouTube video on this session. So today, you're new to this, so just a quick explanation how it works. We're going to try to keep around 30-45 minutes live chat with questions. And at the end, we're going to leave some time to the people on the chat to ask any other questions that they might have. So before I start, if you don't mind, I'm going to give a quick intro of what we're doing here in London, and then we'll jump right in. I started Bitcoin and Blockchain London about over a year ago. We continue to grow here in London. We're about 1,080 members now. We have classes, in-person classes, as well as the BitKnow channel. So we have a big event coming up in autumn, which will be advertised soon. It's going to be a joint event with other people in London, so stay tuned on that. And BitKnow channel, basically we're interviewing influencers in the space. So right now we have mainly Bitcoiners. We have Giacomo Zucco, we have Mario Gibney from Blockstream, Jeremy Welsh, and now you, Nicholas. And next, we're going to have another special guest, which is coming up as well. What I would like to do, if anybody that is not a Bitcoiner is interested to learn more about the space, maybe is running some other channel on free speech or any other topic that is of interest to our community, it would be nice to have him as well on my channel. And maybe walk them through Bitcoin, maybe BTCPay, what can do for their online platform as well. So if you know anyone, reach out to me on IM. I'll be interested to host them. So Nicolas, just took a quick look about your background. You're raised in France, as many people know. Then you moved to Japan, working on .NET. You're a .NET developer, then .NET consulting and training, and now in DG Lab. Why you didn't give us like a quick, short walkthrough how you came, how you got into Bitcoin and how you came here?
Yeah, actually I'm working for both DigiLab and Metaco, which is a Switzerland company, and DigiLab, which is Japanese company. And I basically came in into Bitcoin just after MTGOX, just because of one question I had, which was why Bitcoin is still alive. So I thought it was a scam, but I was still not understanding why it was still alive if it was a scam. So I started investigating, and by investigating, I started like trying to. Well, for understanding things, I need to code them. So I started my library that is called NBitcoin, and by learning about Bitcoin, I saw that actually like the foundation were good, and like whatever happened to MTGOX while in Fortnite, there is like no, it's not a fundamental problem at the Bitcoin level. So like that's why when I started becoming interested, and on top of this, basically I get some history in France where I got denied banking for some reason. So like it's it was coming at the right timing, and yeah, I got dragged into this world at this point.
Yeah, I heard about that. That was an interesting story. I heard another interview that you had. That was interesting, and we have questions about that and the situation in Europe right now. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that. So when was the first time you heard about Bitcoin? Was Mt. Gox or even earlier?
I don't even remember. I think I heard about it earlier, but basically I completely dismissed it because I thought it was a startup. I thought it was a startup money, basically, so I completely dismissed it. So I don't even really know when I heard about it the first time, but like really when the first time I got interested was just after Mt. Gox.
And then you realize that he was the thing when Mt. Gox happened and Bitcoin survived, right?
Well, I didn't know that it will become what it is today, but I knew that the problem was not with Bitcoin, but with Mt. Gox. And so, like, I mean, even if the price of Bitcoin is like 100 euro, like, or like less than this, it doesn't matter for Bitcoin. Like the purpose of Bitcoin don't depend on the price. So, like, it's being in control of your own money. So I didn't really care about the price. I know that fundamentally speaking, like there was no problem I could see.
Got it. And how do you transition to work exclusively on Bitcoin? How did you start with BTCPay?
Well, so before Bitcoin, I was a technical trainer. So basically, I had a bunch of certification in the .NET programming world and .NET technology world, and I was what you call Microsoft certified trainer. So I was going to companies and training centers, like trying to teach people how to use .NET technology. Well, I did like that for a long time. So like it's a well-paying job. So like I could like kind of get some reserve, let's say, at this point. And when I discovered Bitcoin, basically I completely stopped doing all of this because I actually it was boring compared to Bitcoin. So yeah, like thanks to the saving I made at this time, and as well I had like very low cost of living. I started like coding on Bitcoin, like making my Bitcoin library that is called NBitcoin. And by growing in Bitcoin, basically people started asking me for consulting. And from this, basically, I transitioned to Bitcoin.
And then you start with BTCPay Server when
Oh,
you know
way
this
after.
way after. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, I don't have exactly the timeline in my head, but like basically the 2 or 3, 4 year that I was in Bitcoin, I did end Bitcoin. I worked around Correct Coins as well, around the Open Asset Protocol. Like I tried different stuff, and basically BTCPay is like one of my latest projects. Like I think I don't remember if I started last year or 2 years ago. Like time flies fast. But
And you
yeah.
didn't like the direction of BitPay. That's why you started, or
Yeah. So it's the same thing for a bunch of company. Like a bunch of company grow very early thanks to the thanks to the Bitcoin community that was very enthusiastic and like pushing them and like advertising them a lot. And like what happened with the B2X, it felt like a kind of backstabbing a bit, but it was also a wake-up call because we talk about decentralization of Bitcoin, of miners, of developers, but we tend to not talk too much about the decentralization of the infrastructure. And what I mean by this is that if Bitcoin don't have the proper tooling, like if people don't build the right tooling for other business to build their code upon, what those business do instead is depend on third-party services. So, for example, centralized block explorer like BlockCypher or like blockchain.com. And this is another centralization risk. And when we got this B2X, basically it was like a wake-up call. Like, okay, it's those infrastructure provider are trying now to go in a certain way that does not embrace the ethic of Bitcoin. And like I thought it's a technical problem, and as a technical problem, you just put enough like developer code and time, and normally we can fix it. So that's basically why I started BTCPay. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about BTCPay Server. So describe BTCPay Server as someone who's totally new to the space. So it's a Bitcoin crypto payment processor. There's no intermediaries, no fees. Sort of like help with invoicing. It's like an invoicing system as well. Easy to integrate with any online platform, like even crowdfunding type of platform. Give like a quick overview for somebody that's totally new, that has an online presence and would like to use BTC Pay to be paid with BTC or crypto.
Yeah, so BTC Pay is basically a open source payment processor. It means that imagine that you have a shop, so like you're freelance, you want to raise money for a cause. You are just an individual that want an easy way to have your own server where you can manage, like give people addresses to get paid wherever you want at the rate you want. Like it's kind of like a tool. Then you can just use BTC Pay. And the nice thing about BTC Pay is that because we are not a business, it means that there is no KYC question, there is no nothing. You know, it's like open source software. We made it as simple as possible to deploy so we deploy by using what we call Docker, and for normal users, it means that it's very easy to install. You don't need to look lots of different tutorial about how to plug things together. Basically, you have like 5 lines of code, and then you push the button, and then it just deploy all the whole infrastructure and connect everything together, and you have it up and running. So yeah, there is lots of tutorial that are done on our YouTube channel. So I advise you to take a look at this. Like Bitcoin Shirt worked a lot about with very great tutorial. So even if you are not technically advanced, you can just host it. And for it can be for your business, it can be for fun, it can be just because you like some of the features. So for example, BTC Pay, very few people know, but actually you can just use it as a Bitcoin wallet. Actually, like you can, if you have a Ledger wallet, you can directly plug to your computer and directly spending from your own node with your Ledger wallet without contacting Ledger servers. So like kind of an easy way to manage your Bitcoin as well. So yeah. It's take a look at our video. You will see lots of different use cases. I'm sure some of them will feature.
Yeah, I got my Raspberry Pi a while back, and I started to play now with Blockstream Element, and after that, I'm actually looking forward to play with BTCPay Server as well.
I think you will be disappointed. It's too easy that it's not even fun.
But it's actually important, and that's why I was asking you this question, because I want to make sure that people that have online presence that want to use Bitcoin knows that this is available to them, especially people. And we have a section later specifically on that. But people that have issue with Patreon or other platform where there is strong censorship, they need to know that this is available to them. That's
well, and there is also another point where it's very useful to use BTC Pay. Actually, lots of people ask the question, how do I host my own Lightning node? So it's a very popular question recently. Actually, the best answer to this is use BTC Pay, because actually right now, if you want to deploy a Lightning node, the easiest solution that you have is BTC Pay. So just because we did this very easy deployment tool, it will save you lots of headache here. And you were talking about Patreon. I don't want to. I don't know if you will want to come back later, but BTC Pay has some kind of plugins, and one of the plugins that exists is called Lib Patreon. It's created by Jeff, a member of the community.
Yeah, we have a section for that later, specifically on that.
So yeah.
So for someone that is new, basically, it downloads the loader and then goes back to your documentation. I have to say it's pretty thorough, and just follow step by step the documentation to install and use. It looks very plug and play, even if I haven't tried. But
yeah, definitely, yeah.
And just in terms of benefit of running self self-hosted, I guess, the fact that there are no intermediaries. So even like practically speaking, there is no fees. That's a major advantage. And then you kind of simplify your management of transactions, invoicing, and all of that, right?
Yep. Well, the only fee that you will find is the fee of your hosting provider. So where do you host this service? So if you host it on a Raspberry Pi, it's the cost of the electricity. I don't know what a Raspberry Pi costs, like maybe $1 per month, something like this in cost of electricity. But like if you are hosting on a third-party services, like very popular hosting provider is called Lunanode. Lunanode typically cost $9 per month just for the server, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have some question about the hosting provider later. So if somebody has any issue with BTCPay, like an online merchant or whatever that is not technically savvy, he would need to troubleshoot, I guess. But I saw that there is quite a huge community, Telegram,
Yeah.
Slack available.
Yeah.
How
So
does it work today? Do you have? I assume you have like majority of the people reaching out on Slack or the Telegram for
yeah.
issues, right?
Yeah, so I'm very happy. So like we developed a big community. So we have a chat.btcpayserver.org, like it's where all the community is, and people always ask questions, like help. We can directly help on it. If it's really another problem that you think it's a bug, then you just open an issue on GitHub, and we always follow through it. So our strategy is basically if people have lots of time the same question, it means that something in the UX is not good. So, even if you think that the problem is on your side and you don't quite know how to solve it, you don't hesitate to open an issue because it tells us that something is wrong in the UX or idea about how to improve things. So yeah, definitely, like you have a problem, you go there. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
I'll start playing with it and then send some doing some debugging and send you some something if I find anything over to you.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned about Lightning. So BTCPay Server integrate with Lightning. So how does it work if I have a Lightning node already and I would like to integrate with BTCPay?
If you have so I advise you against installing a node separately and plugging it into BTCPay. While you can do it, it's hard. I mean, it's not difficult, but like for a non-technical person, I advise against it. So the best is just to use your own integrating Lightning node that is installed with BTCPay. It's the best way to get something that just works and that has been tested by lots of people. And if you have another node somewhere that you use, I just advise you to connect the two nodes together so they give liquidity to each other and just managing them separately. So you can definitely. So right now we support C-Lightning and LND. There is Cooks, one of the contributors, that is working on. I think he already finished on Eclair integration as well. So we support the major implementation already.
Cool. So in terms of future developments, what's next on BTCPay? What's in the pipeline of work? And then the second question is any project you're working on your own?
Yeah, so it's difficult because like everybody is kind of, all the contributors like kind of working on their own project, and then there is not like a common roadmap. Like everybody thinks about something and then develop it and then we merge. But basically on my side, my priority right now is a PSBT support. So basically it's a PSBT, for those who don't know, it's like a kind of portable format that eventually you will be able to use across several Bitcoin software to sign a transaction. So a typical thing that we can do with PSBT that is super cool is imagine that you have a store and you are two founders in this store and you don't want one of the founder to have access to all the fund by himself. So in Bitcoin, everybody knows there is multisig to fix this. But multisig actually, like, there is no proper user interface to use this kind of feature of Bitcoin. Like, it's either some wallet that are pretty bad, or like, or it's not compatible cross wallets, so it's not perfect. With PSBT, basically, like, the two peers that are involved in this multisig can have each one their wallet, and then one person can create a transaction, sign it, copy paste it, and then give it to the other person. The other person can just copy paste it in his own wallet, sign it, and then broadcast it. So like it's kind of a portable way to like transmit transaction between people that want to sign, basically. So at the end of the day, when we have this, we will have a pretty easy UX for multisig users. So it's pretty cool. So also,
and
if
will,
you are
will this be added to BTCPay, or is going to be a separate application altogether?
Yeah, it will be inside BTCPay. Yeah, BTCPay already support receiving money on multisig, but we have no interface to spend from the multisig, so this will solve this basically. Also, if for example you have a hardware wallet like a CoinCard, it will be very easy to use with Coldcard, which is cool.
Cool. And also personally, you're still maintaining programming the blockchain in C# and.
Well, I didn't finish one of the feature as well that is currently developed, and actually you can try, but for now we still don't publish it quite yet because it's not ready. But you can try. It's called BTC Transmuter. So the BTC Transmuter is like a complementary project to BTCPay to automate your money, basically. So the idea is that you can configure a rule where you say, when my wallet is above, for example, 0.1 Bitcoin, send this to an exchange and then place a sell order. So like you can make some kind of rules like this to automatically sell your Bitcoin or stuff like this.
That's very interesting. And
so,
I guess you will need some good UI on top of that just to make sure that regular user can take advantage of it.
So that's a feature lots of people ask us. Like they ask us like, what if we want fiat? Right now there is no good answer except like use several payment processor like Gluby, or like there is lots of them, like OpenNode or whatever. There is lots of them. And basically with this solution, it means that people using BTCPay Server will be able to pick their own exchange and send to their own exchange and automatically sell what they receive by themselves. So this is really the last step to like obsolete completely BitPay in a sense. And we have something that is working right now, but we just don't advise people to use it right now because like it's not ready, but it's developed already. Actually, if you check on our GitHub, we have BTC Transmuter that has been created.
Yeah, the only sorry, I can hear my voice.
Yeah, sorry, I can.
Yeah, no problem. The only point of failure that remains then is the exchange. And
yeah, but well, that's a fiat problem. Like it's a problem that you cannot get rid of until you get rid of fiat. So, but at least it like remove this infrastructure provider and payment processor provider. Like you don't need a payment processor anymore, but you need still exchanges, of course.
Good. Moving on into questions about security, censorship, and self-sovereignty. So why do you think it's important to have a self-hosted payment processor? You mentioned about Libre Patreon. If I would like to know more about that. I mean, I would like the people connected to know more about that, and how avoid banning and censorship you think is important, as we have seen.
So actually, yeah, we got so we have one project that is that is maintained by Jeff, that is lib Patreon, that is a kind of Patreon for Bitcoin. Myself, I didn't quite use it, so I cannot really say anything about it. But as far as I understand, like basically it will remind your patron like every month to pay you a certain amount of Bitcoin. It's pretty cool. The only aspect that I wish that one day we can improve is to have a way where the baker can automatically pay instead of being reminded by mail. But yeah, we have this. We got also we also saw like the crowdfunding application that has been quite used, and some stuff that like would have been banned otherwise. So yeah, like all professions that are in general banned. So we got some sex worker as well that use BTC Pay just to receive their payments. So I mean, like, the more painful it is for you to be accepted in an exchange or a bank, the more sense it makes to just use BTC Pay because we have no question asked. So yeah.
Yeah, and there are millions of people unbanked at the moment, so it's a pretty big market, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like even those that are banked, so for example, like in the adult industry, like credit card processor, because of the risk, they take a huge margin. So like I don't know exactly the numbers, but it's around the 20%. So if you pay like an adult entertainment by card, then the credit card company will take 20% just because of the risk. And even on top of this, they take this, but it doesn't mean that it will work forever. They might cut you one day just because, I don't know, some politician don't like it or somehow, I don't know.
I'm wondering
but nobody knows, but like,
sorry, I'm wondering if this is the same for all the adult content producer.
I think it's a pretty common problem. Yeah, I think it's a pretty common problem, but sadly, a lot of people in those industry, like I got to the problem one time on Twitter where one girl was complaining about how hard it was to accept payments in her industry. And actually, I replied to her like, "Oh, you should use Bitcoin and BTC Pay, and like we would guide you for this." But those people very often don't know what Bitcoin is. They think it's a scam. So actually, she took it very defensively and like start insulting me. So it was quite interesting. And like they say, all I want is a way to be easily paid in fiat. And like you can explain there, the reason why you can't is because politically speaking, like people are making regulatory barrier, and whatever you do, like it will always be like this. But then I got insulted. So lots of people, even that are in need, like don't really know that Bitcoin is what they are searching for. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, no, you raise a very good point. And what we're trying to do here with BitKnow channel, as well as the classes here, is to make people aware of this tool that, as you mentioned, they're not aware of, and it will be actually the solution of their problem. Because this is for the small guy. Because obviously, my question before, what I was asking about adult content for larger corporation that work on that, those people would not have a problem. The problem would be for the small guy that, for whatever reason, fall into that business in that category and needs to get paid, and he has daily problem because of that. They now have this option. So it's important for them to know that this is available.
Yeah, definitely. But also it's very important. So for BTC Pay, so I told you the story about this sex worker that just insulted me. And the only way to convince those people basically to get into Bitcoin, it's so when you try to spread the product, there is two ways of doing this. There is either you have like huge marketing and you can do huge advertisement everywhere and like get some people like this. But like when you are a small project like us, the best way to do it is basically to find like the one guy or the one girl in a specific industry that is interested by your project, and just focusing on this one person, make sure that this one person is very happy and like you solve all these problems. And because this person is inside this industry, it will automatically spread to their own industry. So, for example, for the merchants on my side, the catalyst of everything has been Mike from CoinCord. So, like Mike came for using BTCPay, was one of the first merchants, and basically just by focusing on him and making him happy, basically after it spread out of him. And it's how like you can just infect those small bubble, basically those community bubbles. There is Gab, for example, in the that also spread in the free speech kind of communities. So it's very important to please those people that as a small project, you don't need to convince the whole world, but just like having a foot in the door in those communities, basically.
Yeah, I know Gab as interface with BTCPay Server. I've been using that, and I have a question later on, but maybe I'll ask now. Like you've seen, even in larger, people that have larger audience on YouTube, like intellectual dark web, Jordan Peterson, etc., that have been against Pantron for banning some of the people in the space. I think Giacomo at some point was suggesting to them to use BTCPay. That would be the natural alternative. I think the only kind of issue at this point is the exchange and how to translate to fiat, because we're still in a fiat world, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm pretty. So here is a future I think that is not so far, and I think it will be possible in the medium term, is because technically we have all the tools already to do it, so it's just a question of development. I think that in the future we will have like some service like Patreon, except that instead of sending like every like week a reminder to pay to people, having an automatical way to pay the patron, and the patron actually will be able to automatically send to an exchange via Lightning. It's instant because it's Lightning, and automatically sell immediately if he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is coming. I think it's not complicated technically, just a matter of time. And I think, once it happens, I think there will be a shift, and maybe people will just actually, in the long run, people will just stop using exchanges, I hope.
Yeah, this is very interesting, and we want to hear more as this is developing further. One question I have on this section, a couple more questions actually. Self-hosting versus using a hosting providers, pros and cons. You have suggested hosting provider solution now and during the talk in London. Do you have any concern on censorship on the hosting side?
Yeah, definitely. So you still have the problem with BTCPay. It doesn't solve it. If your host, so imagine you are Gab, you go on Lunanode, then Lunanode get contacted by the authority to close you down. I think Gab will understand that it's not the business of host company to go in jail or to pay penalties for you. So they will not try to defend you. So if you are like some kind of very sensitive business like this, I think Gab is maybe the only example. Gab and like dark markets maybe are the only example that came in my mind. I don't think like hosting in a hosting provider like Lunanode or like Azure or like whatever makes really sense. I think you have to host it by yourself. And
it seems like as you grow, then you should move into self-hosting just to ensure that this attack vector is not available.
self-hosting has also a problem because like the law enforcement still can go to your internet provider. So it's not bulletproof either. So you have one way to solve completely the problem is to use Tor. But if you use Tor, then you leave out lots of potential markets. So the other way is like doing like kind of like a pirate-based doing. Basically, like they have proxies all around the world, and like they serve content in a certain position, in a certain place. And when the authorities shut them down in a certain place, they just pop up in another country, and like they can never know from where it come from. And every time they try to shut them down, it's like massive bureaucracy, and they can just restore the website in hours. But like if to do this, you need like some competent skills. So there is no easy way outside of Tor to solve this problem.
Well, I guess with more adoption, then it will become so spread out that it will be difficult to control.
Well, yeah, I think it will be always difficult, frankly, except if Tor become widespread. But if Tor don't become widespread, I don't think there will be easy way to have this kind of solutions for every person. And actually, not everybody need it. So there is very few people that need it. So like there is like organization like Gab, like WikiLeaks, like dark markets. Yes, they need it. Or like maybe like some political like sensitive. Like
But it also, I guess it also depends on the country where they are located or broadcasting rather versus the government.
Yes.
Like if you're in Venezuela, obviously it would be different if you are.
It's so funny, but because this kind of problem and solution are the same. So imagine that you are an exchange. The best way to be an exchange is like to be located. So like it to be citizen of country A, creating the company in country B, and having the bank account in country C, and marketing to country D. So it's kind of the same solution than even like normal corporation. Like you try to get your to get your service spread out in as much jurisdiction as you can to make it hard to shut you down. But it's still complicated technically. I don't think there will be easy way to do this.
Yeah, and I would expect.
Nor I think it's really needed actually.
Sorry, I would expect Gab and WikiLeaks and those guys to have pretty technical team supporting them.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like for example, if you are a Chinese dissident, the best way is to host your service in US. If you are WikiLeaks, maybe the best way to host your service is in China. If you're a US citizen, the best way to hide yourself is to use Huawei. So.
Yeah, whatever is your edging strategy. So one question about BTCPay and storage of public and private keys. So you don't do private key storage; you only store the public key, and those are stored on your machine. On whoever download BTCPay is not shared with any external party, unless you're using a hosting solution, I assume.
Yeah. So yeah, so only your server knows your expert key, and the server don't know your private key. So like even if BTCPay get hacked, the worst thing that can happen is like a hijack of your wallet. So like the future invoice will pay to the hackers wallet, but like you will detect it quite fast. So like you don't have big risk. Yeah, but you still have one risk though I need to mention on Lightning Network, because Lightning Network is a hot wallet. So if there is a hack, you risk your fund on Lightning. And on top of this, right now we don't have good backup solution for Lightning. So like if your server got like a problem with the host provider, then you can lose your money. And actually, like it's not a theoretical problem. It already happened. Even Luna Node, like it happened time to time where like they just lost the data of some people. and it can be used. So like that's why when you use Lightning, basically we put a big warning like, be careful, like don't put too much on it. And I think it will be better with time, but right now we don't have a good solution for this.
Yeah, so just so everybody is aware of this issue or this concern, so they cannot spend your Bitcoin because they don't have access to a private key. What they can do is they can request the invoice to be paid or a public key that they own rather than your public key.
Yep. The exception is Lightning Network, because Lightning Network, if the hacker gets access to your server, then the funds that are on Lightning can be stolen.
Good to know.
Yep.
Okay, just let's move to the next section, which is we kind of touch upon, but I want to ask you a couple more questions about free speech, libertarianism, which I know you're aligned to. So you left France because I was kind of listening to some interviews. You didn't think that there was a good ground for the growth of entrepreneurial activities. Why do you think is that? Do you think that free markets are a necessary condition for free society to exist? And do you think that in Europe right now there is an issue of having a truly free market, and that is why even free speech is under constraint?
So yeah, in France, I was living in Lyon. It's quite nice city actually. Life was good there. But in general, in France, actually, before I left, I did, so in 2011, I did one business that didn't work. And like after 1 year, we closed down. And because of this business that closed down, basically I was on sort of blacklist for banks. And I got prevented to open bank account for certain times. But on top of this, I still created a new company for my consulting business. And like you have lots of frictions everywhere from the governments, basically, that's I think really strangle and stop innovations. And like you have lots of regulation to follow, and I think lots of taxes, lots of social security stuff, and I think it's pretty how can I say oppressive for people that want to create something. And in general, the quality of life in France, it's my impression that is going down and down, and I don't see like there is more and more social instability in this country, and I don't see like a nice way out of it. I think it will go to the extreme eventually. So yeah, I moved in Japan. I really love my life in Japan. So Japan has also like lots of taxes as well, but even for example, I am French. I don't speak too much Japanese, but for me it has been way easier to open a bank account and open for my business and open a business in Japan that it was in France. So it's to say like, so it's at this point, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, like for example, if you come in Tokyo, I love this city so much because you go wherever you want in the city, and like every building on all the different floors, there is business working and people going, and like there is lots of like consumption and like lots of spending. And I really like this environment. Lots of people say it's because like the BOG is printing lots of money to keep the economy afloat. Maybe it's come from this partially, but I don't know. On my side, like in Tokyo, I feel like there is kind of good vibration of like economic activity. So I really like this city, and I love my life here right now.
Yeah, I can relate. I'm originally from Italy. I spent some time in my life there before moving around the world, and it's a European problem. It's not a French problem.
Okay.
Tokyo is very interesting, and is my next destination. I'll make sure to come to visit you.
Yeah, definitely.
So have you followed the yellow vest process? How's it going to end up? Do you think at some point they were talking about a bank run? Do you think that is a possible outcome? Or?
Yeah, so I don't see any exit possible. So I don't see anything that Macron can do to solve the situation. And I think even lots of yellow vests in France, personally. So there has been a good. So there has been something that I like about the yellow vest that I will talk about. But like for now, I think lots of people are complaining because the state don't do something for them. So like they are complaining because they say, oh, this guy got disadvantage, but why not me? And they complain to get their disadvantage as well. And so as you go more and more like this, you go in a country that start like becoming like communists, because like the state take all the decision about how to allocate resources. But there has been like a good trend in France actually that surprised me. I was not expecting it from the yellow vests, which was talk about direct democracy. So the thing is that in France we have kind of like centralized power, where more and more of the power start to become centralized in Paris. There has been lots of restructuration in the like 10 or 15 last year, where local cities and local regions got less and less power. And when you get this centralization of power, what happened is that those central power have no idea of what locally the problem are. And people locally are very frustrated because they cannot solve the problem, because they need to convince all the central hierarchy. So that has brought lots of tensions. And I think like some people start saying like that the power need to be like kind of redistributed, like back, to the locally. And on top of this, lots of people start mentioning the initiative populaire. How do you say this? Kind of a way to get like the citizen more power. So I don't know if you know all the Switzerland is working, but basically Switzerland have a kind of so if the people don't like some kind of law, they can make a referendum that force the government to step back on a law. And like lots of people are becoming interested into this kind of model. And also other people start to push direct democracy, which so right now we have like a parliament, and they try to push a sort of party that like is a direct democracy, basically, where the idea is that I don't follow too much about this. My brother is more into this, but the idea is basically like the representatives that will go on behalf of. So we still have this kind of representative democracy in France. We cannot change this, right? But what can happen is that you can sort of create a party that is representing a direct democracy, having representatives in their framework that go to the assembly, but like just vote like what the direct demo how does it work? Actually, I should not go too far into this because I step out of my mind right now. But basically, the idea is like kind of having non-professional politicians assisting in the assembly, like having like a real people, real citizen that participate instead of political representatives. So it's coming. Like some people are starting to think about this, and it's good things I see. But I don't personally. I don't know if it will be enough. I think it's too little, too late, and I think that in maybe not next election or maybe next election, there will at one point be an extreme that will appear in power. I think I don't see any. I hope I'm wrong. I saw good things happening in France, like I said, but I'm still doubtful.
Yeah, no, I understand your concern, but what I think is the issue is that, sorry, if you can go mute, I can hear my voice again.
Sorry.
No problem. So yeah, what I think is the issue that is twofold. The first one is the current system, as you say, is hierarchical, and you have an information transfer issue. So as the information goes up, it gets corrupted and changed. So even if you elect someone that is capable to come out with the most efficient economic solution for the space, the geographical space that is representing, you still have an issue of the information being correct, being not corrupted in the process, which is not a trivial one. And then obviously the obvious one is the corruption, and and instead of
that has been always the case that where authoritarian governments or like communist government always thought that the problem was just a problem of calculation.
Right.
And they think that given the perfect information, then you can take the perfect decision. But having perfect information is not possible. Like the information is like localized into the brain of everybody that is in business. So it's always the same problem. Yeah. And recently that's why there has been a push in AI, basically, because like they think this AI stuff will solve this problem. Like AI will tell us the data that is missing, but not.
But there is another problem in that, which is the current voting system doesn't cost people anything. So when you vote for someone, unfortunately, you can do it lightly. And when you do business, that's not true. When you do trading, when you invest in things, you really communicate what you consider value to be. And that's, I think, what we share within the Bitcoin space is this passion for free market, and we believe that brings free societies, because you have these two things. One, you have all the information crystallized in the price, and second, you have commitment by people, because when they spend money, they take away from their own resources, so they must be really they are communicating what they really believe to be of value. So it's very difficult to represent that outside the free market model. I think that's what.
That's what the book of Nicolas Taleb is always explaining, that like indeed, like you need to check people that have skin in the game, not people. So for example, making a prediction on price on the market is pretty cheap. Like you get wrong, people just forget, you delete the tweet, everything is fine. You get right, okay, you just say to everybody, you recall everybody, oh, look at how I was right. But these people don't have any skin in the game, so like it's you should always, yeah, like when somebody take a decision, you need to have the downside of the bad decision. If it happens, it should not have some sort of asymmetry where the good side only come to him and like the bad side are like shared among society. So yeah, that's also one of the.
I'm also a big fan of Taleb, and I've been through the Skin in the Game, Black Swan, and now I'm finishing up Anti-Fragile, and all of the three is great book. And I share a lot of things with Taleb and his view as well. So good reading, which will lead me to a question in a little bit to you. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about the shitcoin drama. BTCPay supports multiple currencies, cryptocurrency. We know that. I know that you're not actively developing anything on that, but if they want people that support other cryptocurrency can develop on that. The question is, I've seen a lot of drama, as everybody have seen on Twitters, about shitcoins, especially recently. With Bitcoin Cash and SV. I think personally, I want your take on that. That takes away a lot of time that can be redistributed to more important endeavor. And the people discussing about this are people that are contributing to the Bitcoin community. So we could redistribute that time to training, coding, explain to other people Bitcoin. But I understand that we think that by doing this we can eliminate what we believe to be a scam. But on the flip side, by discussing this alternative coin that we believe to be scam, we sort of give free advertisement to them. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so on my side, I will be happily ignoring it. I don't really care. If people don't like what I do, they can just fork. It's not a big deal. But my main concern that is the impact the contributors that can get stressed out about this. So it's what only pissed me off. But basically, so I added icon support. So the idea was, so I'm maintainer of a library that is called nBitcoin, and this library is like kind of the library that everybody in Bitcoin world that is using .NET is building upon. And like, I didn't want it to take time supporting shitcoin. I had this problematic. I didn't want to support shitcoin because it takes my time out of Bitcoin, and I don't want this. So instead, what I did is like to extend my library to allow anybody interested into doing this work to do it. So I started only integrating Litecoin as an example. And basically what I did after when I did BTC Pay, it's the same thing. I allow people to add their own support. And the thing is that it brought lots of different shitcoin that implemented themselves inside my library. So like basically adding value to my library without me doing anything. And to BTCPay as well, because like they have a local community that learn about BTCPay thanks to this. So on my side, it's like kind of free work. Like I did that once. Now like the shitcoiners are like integrating themselves, without bothering me. And like if it stopped working, it's not my problem. Like it's their problem. And so it doesn't take me that much time. So on my side, I'm pretty happy with this. About scam coin, I don't know if there are scam coin. If there is like obvious scam coin, say like OneCoin or like I forgot others. I don't have any others in mind. But like, of course, I will not allow this. I will also not support BSV and Bcash for the simple reason that there will be so much drama if I do it that I will lose my time. So it's not even worth it. And actually, even those shitcoiners don't get the point of people running their own node. And BTCPay cannot run without your own node. So like, it doesn't make any sense for them as well. So yeah, I mean, people can get pissed off. I don't. On my side, I'm fine. I just trying to make sure it doesn't burn too much as the other contributors.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to spend less time on that and more time on actually developing trading and make people aware of Bitcoin.
Yeah, and like one concern was also, for example, like by having shitcoin code in BTCPay, would it be more difficult to? So there has been good side actually to support shitcoin. So believe it or not, actually shitcoiners are like always using BTCPay on the cutting edge, so like on the master branch. And actually lots of bug has been reported by shitcoiners thanks to this. So like it has been, there has been good stuff. And like the shitcoin code actually is very, if you look the way that BTCPay is structured, the shitcoin code is like really concentrated into one file. So like basically you remove this file, you remove one coin. So it's very easy to, like to be sure that no shitcoin is adding something bad. And so lots of good things that came. Also, it allowed me to refactor BTCPay in a way that was way more clear. Like there was some sort of hedge cases that happened on shitcoin quite easily, but that doesn't happen easily on Bitcoin. But because it happened on the shitcoin, I knew the bug. I would not have known the bug without the shitcoin. So like there's been very good side to add them. So I don't regret it on my side.
So there are positive externality because of shitcoin BTCPay Server.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, yeah. I'm very glad. Yeah.
So we are toward closure. A couple of questions, and then I'll let you go. Which current application or projects built on Bitcoin you are most interested on at the moment that you're not directly working on that still interest you, and you have a close look at recently?
I think my favorite one. So yeah, my favorite one is Wasabi Wallet actually. So Wasabi Wallet actually is also based on Bitcoin, so I'm very happy. It's also in .NET, so it's kind of takeover of .NET in the Bitcoin world. I'm very happy with it. Like there is also the BTC transmuter that Kux is working on and Rockstar Dev are working on that will come, and that is automation of Bitcoin that will be very interesting, but it's still a bit early. So they are my main like interesting things going on right now outside of BTC Pay.
Yeah, I saw a few Twitters about Wasabi, and I think you reported a potential issue recently.
Like I think Wasabi is really genius because like it's what when you think about it, it's the first business model that can only work on cryptocurrency. Like it's like you cannot do this with fiat; it's not possible, and it's very interesting one. And so for information, like 3 or 4 years ago, Nopara came in Tokyo, and it was quite like kind of a like the beginner in .NET programming, and he wanted to work on this Wasabi. Not Wasabi. Wallet, hidden wallet. He was calling this. And when he came, basically, like he had so much stuff to learn, and like he was starting from from such the beginning. I say, oh my god, I don't know if he will keep pushing like this, but actually kept pushing like for 3 or 4 years. Like Wasabi Wallet, you might know it like since maybe 1.5 years or like less than this, but Adam has been working like crazy like since 3 or 4 years to reach that point, and it's very interesting to see that he finally got it, and like his vision of making profit in this system was already there 3 years ago. Like he was seeing the plotting numbers of like the centralized mixers and say, look, Nicolas, like they are making so much money and they are so shitty, and like they are scamming people, and they leak the data and everything, and like look at how much money they get. If I get just a little, I will be fucking rich. And like he kept pushing since this day, and right now it's like if you see the like the profit of Wasabi, like it's going like exponentially high right now. So I'm very happy for him. He pushed and it worked.
Good. Okay, so every interview I ask to the person that I most think to list the top 3 favorite book. You mentioned about Taleb. Yeah, so what are your top 3 favorite book?
So top one, I will say, yeah. So it's hard. There's lots of book I love, but
I know that you are
the sovereign individual. I think if you didn't read it, it's like mind blowing. So this one exactly. Like it's like people might have heard lots of it, but it's not. It's really good. So I advise you to take it. Like there is like mind blowing prediction on what's happening right now. Another one that I never saw a lot, but that I enjoyed very much. It's like a kind of novel, like a novel about a woman that is kind of in an oppressive government and trying to hide and say like hide herself, protecting herself by hiding on the internet. It's called wait, I can remember. Fifth Emporium. So I can send it. I really enjoyed this novel. Like somehow, like very few people know it. The thing
Interesting.
I put it in the group chat. And what else? So I enjoyed another novel that is Atlas Shrugged, but I don't know if I can put it in the third place. Yeah, so there is two books that I'm always, I don't know which one to put first. So there is Atlas Shrugged that I really love this book. Like it, when you read it very often, you see lots of parallels with what is happening in real life. So it's pretty interesting. And so one book. So I also enjoyed Murray Rosebar. So
Yeah, I noticed that. You wrote a Medium article on that, I think, as well. One of the ethics of liberty, I think it was.
yeah, so Rosebar is pretty interesting guy. So if so, very often people are kind interested into libertarian ideal, and like very often, like when you speak to like extremist libertarian, very often people think, oh, those guys are nuts. We cannot have a world without governments. But then when you read Rosbars, he has such a logical way of explaining his point, and like it's like a mathematical demonstration basically, and like you cannot disagree with it without disagreeing on some very fundamental premises that you took. So I advise you, if you didn't read it, like reading him. So there is like recently I was reading Ethic of Liberty, but actually it's not my favorite. I don't remember the name of my favorite. Oh wait, Murray Rosebar. There was. I will need to find back the name, but Ethic of Liberty has not been my favorite one. There has been another one, but yeah. The
Yeah,
Atlas Shrug as well is very good. So I'm hesitating between this book of Murray Rosebar and Atlas Shrug.
yeah. Maybe after when we finish this, you can add it to the Twitter thread that we have. Also, I think Justin Moon, was it Justin? Yeah, put together like sort of like a shared book. I don't know if it was on Git or whatever, where everybody can suggest books, and maybe we should do something similar, or maybe just share
Yeah,
our favorite books. I've been
yeah,
going through this, which is kind of interesting because the cover doesn't tell the story, but that's one
yeah.
Mises.
Yeah, I know. I know he's not socialist.
Well, it's a very logical analysis on how. Well, I wouldn't spoil it for you, but it's a logical analysis on the technical flaw and the ethical flaw of socialism. So it for me, this is the most dramatic commentary against it. So if
Okay,
somebody if somebody's interested, I suggest definitely to read it.
it's kind of
Go ahead.
it's kind of fun. Thomas Piketty, that is a socialist, wrote the book Capital, and like Mrs. that is not is calling his book Socialism.
Yeah, I guess that's how it should be. It should be like a critique
Yeah.
of the other by the one not supporting it. Makes sense. Okay, we're toward the end. The last thing I wanted to ask you, I know that you got donation for coffee. So how many Nespresso you have today? I know it's a good proxy to know how things are going for you.
So in general, in terms of donation, it fluctuates a lot. But like I never did like a sort of average, but maybe I will say in terms of coffee, maybe I get 10 coffee, maybe. It's a lot of coffee, yeah.
Okay, that's all I wanted to cover for today. Thanks again, Nicolas, for joining us. I hope to see you soon in London again, and maybe to have this interview again in the future. For people that just joined BitKnow, below is the subscribe button if you want to subscribe to the BitKnow channel. For those in London, sign up to Bitcoin and Blockchain London Meetup, which also the link is below. And for those on Twitter and Telegram, again, the link is below if you want to follow me on Twitter or join our chat. So good night at this point, Nicolas.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.